Imagine waking up every day before sunrise, walking to a barren field, and knowing that even after hours of hard labor, the harvest might not be enough to feed your family. This is the daily reality for millions of farmers in North Korea, one of the most closed-off and tightly controlled countries in the world. North Korea is known for its extreme isolation. To the outside world, the country appears in the news for its military parades, missiles, and the rigid figure of its leaders, but behind this facade lies a reality rarely shown, the harsh and silent life of its farmers. Despite being a nation with vast territory, only about 20% of its land is arable. The mountainous terrain, harsh climate, and lack of technology make farming an arduous task, and yet, for most of the population, the fields remain their only hope for food. The life of a North Korean farmer is far from what we see in other parts of the world. There are no large landowners or private farms. All land belongs to the state, and agricultural production is organized into collective cooperatives. The results of their labor don't just belong to the family who planted the crops, but to the entire system that dictates what goes in and out of every field. In North Korea, farmland doesn't belong to those who work it. Every piece of land is state-owned, and farmers labor in collective cooperatives. These farms are made up of groups of families living side by side, cultivating the same plots and sharing responsibilities. Each cooperative can bring together 200 to 300 people, organized like gears in the same machine. There is no room for individual choice. What to plant, how to plant, and even where the harvest goes is all decided from the top down, following direct government orders. Most of the country's arable land lies in plains along rivers and on the western coast. In these areas, rice is the dominant crop, a staple in the North Korean diet. But due to the harsh climate, rice alone isn't enough. Corn, potatoes, and soybeans are also cultivated on a large scale. The problem is that the land itself doesn't cooperate. Roughly 80% of North Korea is mountainous, making it impossible to expand farmland. Only about 1/5 of the country can be used for agriculture, and even in those areas, soil fertility is limited. North Korea's agricultural landscape is also defined by a shortage of modern resources. Fertilizers, tractors, heavy machinery, and irrigation systems are scarce or outdated. Much of the work still depends on farmers' physical strength and manual methods, such as plowing with oxen or using rudimentary hoes. The use of chemical fertilizers and pesticides is limited, often replaced by improvised solutions like organic compost made in the villages themselves. While this keeps the fields producing, it reduces overall yields. On top of that, the lack of fuel restricts the use of agricultural machinery, forcing families to rely on long hours of manual labor in the fields. And all agricultural output is directly controlled by the government. Harvests are recorded and distributed according to central plans. A portion goes to the military, another to the cities, and the remainder is divided among farmers. However, this distribution doesn't always guarantee enough food. Many rural workers receive only minimal rations, which pushes them to improvise, growing small hidden plots near their homes or bartering what little they can produce for other foods in informal markets. For the North Korean farmer, life in the countryside is defined by a constant duality, working hard for the state while simultaneously finding ways to keep their own families fed. The life of a North Korean farmer begins before sunrise. Around 5 a.m., workers are already awake. The day starts with collective exercises and songs in honor of the regime, a mandatory part of their daily discipline. Only then do they head to the fields. Farmers often walk or ride bicycles long distances to reach the crops. Few have their own means of transportation, and the trip can take up to an hour. Once they arrive, tasks are already assigned. Some plow the land, others irrigate, plant seeds, or harvest. In the fields, the scene is one of sheer physical effort. Most of the work is manual: hoes, shovels, baskets, and oxen used for plowing. Tractors are rare, and when they are available, they're old, frequently broken, and heavily dependent on scarce fuel. The labor is repetitive and exhausting. During spring and summer, farmers can spend up to 12 hours a day under the sun, making sure every inch of land is used. In autumn, the harvest demands even more effort, with entire families carrying sacks of corn, rice, and potatoes to collective storage facilities. Meals are simple and limited. Rice, when available, is stretched by mixing it with corn. Potatoes and thin soups make up much of the daily diet. Meat is rare and usually reserved for special occasions. Food is distributed through a rationing system, which assigns fixed portions to each worker. In practice, this often means many farmers live on the edge of hunger, especially in the years of poor harvests. To cope, some secretly grow small plots around their homes or raise animals like pigs and chickens on a very small scale. Families live in villages near the cooperatives, in simple houses made of wood or brick. In some areas, especially for younger workers, dormitories are shared. Comfort is minimal. Few households have reliable electricity, and heating in the winter depends on wood or coal-burning stoves. Social life revolves around the community and collective work. Weddings, parties, and celebrations are rare, and when they do happen, they're usually tied to harvests or official regime dates. Children attend local schools for part of the day, but many also help their parents in the fields from a young age. Beyond the physical labor, there is the constant weight of surveillance. Every effort a farmer makes is closely monitored. Each cooperative has local leaders who report directly to the government. The state decides what will be planted, sets production targets, and collects the majority of the harvest. Production is strictly tracked, and any attempt to hide part of it can result in harsh punishment. This leaves farmers caught between two pressures: feeding their families and meeting the quotas imposed by the state. It's a fragile balance, and many survive only through improvisation and small black markets, tolerated in some regions as a way to ease hunger. For a North Korean farmer, the struggle isn't just against barren land, it's against nature itself. The extreme climate is a constant enemy. Summers are short and don't always bring enough rain. Winters are long and relentless, freezing the soil for months and drastically cutting down the growing season. When rain comes in excess, rivers overflow and wipe out entire fields. When it doesn't, drought turns the ground into dust. A single bad season can put millions at risk of starvation. In the 1990s, North Korea faced one of its darkest periods, the so-called Arduous March. Famine devastated entire villages, claiming hundreds of thousands of lives. For the farmers who survived, that memory remains a permanent warning. With every new harvest, the fear of reliving that tragedy lingers with every seed planted. Another challenge is the lack of modern technology. Tractors, harvesters, and efficient irrigation systems are rare. Fuel is scarce and expensive, further limiting the use of machinery. The soil, naturally poor in nutrients, requires fertilizers, but domestic production is insufficient, and international sanctions make importing them even harder. As an alternative, farmers improvise with organic compost, ashes, or animal remains, trying to squeeze every bit of productivity from the land. Without proper pesticides, pests are another invisible enemy, capable of destroying entire crops within weeks. Another lifeline is the black market, known as jangmadang. In these informal fairs, farmers trade corn, potatoes, or eggs for rice, clothes, soap, or even medicine. Risky as it is, this underground economy has become essential for rural survival. Every day in North Korea's fields is a silent battle against the cold, against hunger, against the lack of resources, and against the rigidity of the system. And yet, these farmers carry on. Amid fields of corn and rice, between calloused hands and nights lit only by oil lamps, life in the North Korean countryside goes on. It is a cycle of labor, struggle, and survival that reveals a rarely seen side of one of the world's most closed-off nations. Even in the face of the greatest hardships, there is a quiet determination. Every seed planted in the soil carries not only the hope of food, but also the hope of continuity for the North Korean farmer. This is how the journey through the fields of North Korea comes to an end. And now I want to hear from you. After seeing this reality, can you imagine yourself living as a North Korean farmer? Leave your answer in the comments. If this video gave you a new perspective, give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Here we'll keep exploring stories that show how different peoples face life's greatest challenges. The world is full of hidden narratives, and together we're going to uncover each one of them.